I think we're live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Anselmo Academy of Music and the Arts YouTube channel. Greetings from New York. Hope that you are all enjoying the last few days of summer and staying well and healthy. And as the school year is about to begin for millions of students around the world, we wanted to wish everyone, students, teachers, and families, a great start of the fall semester. Today, we cast three young musicians in our episode 3 of the broadcast called Young Talents of New York. And if you missed our episode 1 and 2, which aired on June 27th and August 1st, please visit our YouTube channel at Anselmo Academy. Our goal today is to introduce these young, talented musicians, help them gain new audiences and new fans, and draw inspiration from their performances and life stories. And if I may also say, the confession here, I fall a little bit in love with each guest that has been invited to our broadcast for the Young Talents of New York, as I truly see them as future passionate advocates for the performing arts, music education, and culture around the world. And I think their voice is very important. So I hope you agree. Without any further ado, please help me welcome Sasha Blackman, 14-year-old flutist. Sasha, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Sasha is going into 9th grade in Special Music School High School in New York City. She's in her 6th year of flute study and is a student of Dr. Valerie Holmes at the Lucy Moses School. Our guest number 2 is Eunice Park, who is a 15-year-old harpist. Hello, Eunice.
Hi.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Eunice is a sophomore attending a school in Virginia and a 4th-year student of Professor Nancy Allen, who is principal harpist of New York Philharmonic. And Eunice is attending Juilliard pre-college program. Our guest number 3 is Ariel Goreevich, 17-year-old pianist. Ariel, say hi.
Hi.
Welcome. Ariel has been studying with renowned teacher Irina Nuzova at the Lucy Moses School of Music since he was 5 years old. He is a recent graduate of Hunter College High School and is heading now to Northwestern University. And I'd like to say just a few words about the Anselmo Academy as we begin our 21st school year this coming fall. I wanted to say that we are honored and proud to have been serving thousands of students in our outreach type of programs, which is our signature program at local schools, community centers, senior centers, and organizations that serve students with learning disabilities. For the first 19 years of our history, we only served piano and general music. So in the last year and a half, we have expanded our curriculum. And in addition to piano, we have added violin, guitar, voice, musical theater, acting, drums, saxophone, woodwind instruments, ukulele, classes in music theory, Disney class, early childhood education class, and composition class. And this fall, we will be expanding our invitation to online classes that we would organize, and we'll welcome students from outside of New York metro area as well to join them. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as we host this kind of broadcast once a month, but we also post educational videos on occasion. And so please subscribe to other online channels that we have. And we also invite you to subscribe to our e-newsletter that you receive by email once a month. And we have a little short video that we'd like to play for you on how to subscribe to our newsletter on our website. Take a look. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. Our guest number one is Sasha Blackman. Can we please have Sasha's picture on the screen as I read her accomplishments and accolades? Wonderful. Sasha performed at Weill Hall at Carnegie Hall as the first prize winner in 2019 Crescendo International Competition. She is one of the 3 winners at 2020 Lucy Moses School Concerto Competition. She participated in Luzerne Music Center summer program in 2017 and 2018 and participated in Galway Flute Festival in Switzerland. She also took part in masterclass with Orish Nior at Flute in Wien, which is intense master course in Vienna, Austria. She is also a winner of 2020 Young Musicians Contest supported by New York Flute Association. And now we're going to play an excerpt from her performance at 2020 Concerto Competition Winners Concert, which was held on February 9, 2020, performing Mozart Flute Concerto in D major, K314. Take a look. Beautiful, thank you. Our guest number 2 is Eunice Park. Can we please have Eunice's picture on the screen as I read her accolades? Beautiful. Eunice is the principal harpist of the Virginia All-State Orchestra, as well as the Juilliard Pre-College Symphony. She is the first prize winner of 2021 American Harp Society National Competition, winner of the Eclipse Chamber Orchestra Competition, and first prize winner of CNU, which is Christopher Newport University, Harp Festival Competition. She has performed Ravel Segani at the age of 13 with the Juilliard Pre-College Symphony at Peter J. Sharp Theater. And we're going to play her video number 1, which is Marcel Gangiani's aria in classical style. Take a look. Beautiful. And our guest number 3 is Ariel Goreevich. Can we please have his picture on the screen as I read his accolades? Wonderful. Ariel has received accolades at a number of piano competitions, including Rondo Vanguard Competition, the Young Pianist Competition of New Jersey, the Kaufman Music Center Concerto Competition, and Chopin International Piano Competition in Hartford. He has performed at Weill Hall at Carnegie Hall, National Opera Center, Merkenhall, Palazzo Mezzacapo, Italy, Wallenstein Palace in Prague, Czech Republic, among others. Ariel also took part in several music festivals: Olympus Musicus in Prague, Amalfi Coast Music and Arts Festival, and Interharmony Music Festival in Italy. And we are now going to play Ariel's video number 1, which is Chopin Etude number 1, Opus 10. We had some technical difficulties displaying the video part. Let me see, can we try doing this again? Or maybe a little bit later? We'll definitely want to do this again. No, it still is audio only, no visual. Shall we proceed with a dialogue and maybe try that again? Let's do that. Okay. So the next part of our broadcast is the dialogue part between the three artists. We have asked each one of them to submit questions and topics they'd like to discuss. So here's question number 1, the importance of the teacher. Let's start with Sasha. Go ahead.
I believe that teachers are important because they significantly ease the process of becoming a musician, you know? Not to mention that they've been longer in the music business than you and thus have a greater understanding of how to approach a piece, like what sorts of accents you might want to use, ornaments, or playing style. And generally, the main point of having a teacher is that they help push you, like they help you utilize your skills in a better way than you can. So like, for example, me, right? I started working with my extremely talented teacher, Valerie Holmes, when I was 8 years old. And during that time, I was a little bit undisciplined, but she recognized potential in me, musical potential. And even though I myself was a little bit, unable to focus and focusing on my music and stuff like that, she pushed me and pushed me and pushed me to become the musician I am today. So yeah, that's why I believe that teachers are important.
Fantastic. Eunice.
I agree with everything that Sasha said, and I also think teachers are very important because it really makes or breaks the student. They should provide the right pacing and repertoire and teaching style that's best for the student. And for me, Professor Allen also teaches me like life lessons as well as various methods of playing. And that makes me have a stronger understanding in music and not just harp. And it just broadens my point of view in the world. So
Fantastic. Ariel.
Well, I mean, teachers are, of course, immensely important for for any kind of classical musician, because classical music is so deeply rooted in tradition and in history and in a sort of way of making music, a way of thinking about music that is hard to discover on your own. And of course, a teacher needs to give you a mindset and needs to sort of bestow this way of interacting with music onto you as a musician, for you to be able to build your own sort of understanding of it and your own relationship to it. But and I agree with everything that's been said. Of course, in like a more technical sense, a teacher can give you more specific insights about technique as a musician, about interpretation, you know, where to play louder, where to play softer, things like that. But one thing that I do have to say that I don't fully agree with is that I don't think a teacher should dictate repertoire 100%, because repertoire is something that's at least for me, that's always been really personal for me, because I find it difficult sometimes if I'm playing a piece that I don't really that doesn't make me feel anything, or that doesn't inspire me. It's difficult for me as a musician to recreate that music. But aside from that, I think that, yeah, teacher certainly makes or breaks you as a musician, and can open your eyes to new ideas and to new sort of approaches that otherwise you simply would never know existed.
Fantastic answers, you guys. Next question. Exposure to diverse forms and types of music. Let's start with Eunice.
I think it's extremely important to not just be used to your standard classical music, but all different styles, even if you don't like it necessarily, because it really helps you sort of ground your musicality, and it just broadens your experience and helps you get to know more about techniques that composers use that maybe aren't as popular or used in mainstream pieces. And so just knowing secular styles or pieces from not as well-known composers is really important.
Wonderful. Sasha.
I believe that exposure to different types of music is vital for a musician, because, you know, it allows your musical skills to be broadened. So like, for example, you can play, so like your teacher, right? You grow up learning a certain sort of music, a certain sort of style, right? And then let's say you go to another country, right? So I'm in Turkey right now. And the way people play here is significantly different from the way people play in the US. Maybe this has something to do with the atmosphere of the countries, and like how the culture influences music. But despite that, it's extremely important to know like these different sorts of nuances in music and stuff like that, right? Because here, I'll give you like a metaphor. It's as if an artist goes from 24 colors, right, in their palette. So like the original, you know, like our classical music, how we perform at Kaufman Center, and then you go and experience these different sorts of cultures, and that's like taking the 24 color palette to 240 color palette. So yeah.
Fantastic. Ariel.
Well, I personally think that all music comes from the same place psychologically, or I don't know, just artistically. It's that, you know, music, it doesn't really matter how people choose to express themselves musically in a fundamental sense. And I think as musicians, it's our responsibility to love all kinds of music, and to understand all these different sort of forms of expression. And, you know, as Sasha was saying, the sort of palettes of different timbres, of different rhythms, of different forms, you know, songs or symphonies, or just, you know, jazz standards, whatever it is. Everybody, all musicians are just trying to reach like your heart, and to you know, convey some emotion and convey some meaning to you in their own way. And I feel like any kind of music that does that deserves my attention and deserves my appreciation. And you know, I need to hear that music to sort of to become a bigger, sort of more deeply thought musician, I guess.
Fantastic. Question number 3. What advice have you heard from teachers, mentors that affected your relationship to music? Let's start with you, Ariel.
Well, it's a hard question to answer because there's a lot to pick from, obviously. Well, one thing that I've heard from a mentor, from a teacher that I took numerous master classes from, it's a little bit hard to translate. I heard it in Russian because this teacher was Russian. And well, in Russian, the literal translation is music is words, which doesn't really mean anything in English. But I'll try, and the way that I sort of interpret it personally is that music is a message. And what this means to me, I guess, you know, philosophically, is that music is a message that, you know, goes from artist to listener, and that it has like a definite sort of quality, a sort of an overall general meaning that travels from you to another person or people. And that to play a piece of music as a classical musician, you know, a piece of music that was written by somebody else very, very long time ago, you have to grasp this message and understand the meaning that went into this work of art. And then you have to find a way to relate it to other people. And, you know, whatever you do on the surface, you know, in terms of, you know, choices that you make in your performance, I don't know, there's a lot of cosmetic things that go into, you know, classical performance, just because of tradition, because of you know, technical things. And sort of underneath all of the cosmetics and the semantics, that there is a sort of an emotional, you know, manifesto that sort of has to come through this art from you to another person. So, yeah.
Great. Eunice.
I also have so many, but one thing that really stuck with me was to make sure that you yourself are satisfied with the way you're playing. My teacher said this, and she goes, because if you don't enjoy your own music, then no one else will. And I think that as we all get older, we sort of get harder on ourselves, and we find ourselves, you know, comparing or just nitpicking all the little mistakes that we made. But I think you know, the reason that we do this is because we enjoy it, right? Because we love music. And so I think it's really important to remember to just enjoy the way you're playing and the pieces that you're playing, and the way that you play.
Thank you. Sasha.
So the most valuable piece of advice which I got is probably from my mother. And this was when I was competing in crescendo competition. And during this time, I was extremely nervous and the stress was almost eating me alive. I was like a zombie. And in some way, you know, my stress is contingent to the way that I play, my musicality. And so my mom said that there's no point in being nervous because you can't change how you're going to play now. And this was around like 5 minutes before I went into competing. And that really stuck with me because, you know, no matter how much you work on a piece and like no matter how much you put effort into it, the time you perform, you have to let all of that stress go and just go on the stage and be yourself. That's it.
Beautiful. Okay, question number 4. What is one of your favorite pieces of classical music? Describe the piece and a little about its history and what it meant for you as a musician. Let's start with Eunice.
One of my favorite pieces is Aria in Classic Style by Marcel Grangeny, which is the piece that was played in the video. And Grangeny was actually my current teacher's teacher. And so it definitely has a special place in the heart. And it's just, yeah. And so what I've heard is that she told me this piece was actually an improvisation that Mr. Grangeny created, which I think was super cool because it's so beautiful. And it also has an organ part. And so if you do it together, it's really beautiful. So I really like it.
Wonderful. Sasha.
Kind of ironically, my favorite piece of classical music isn't a flute piece, but it's actually a piano piece. And it's specifically the second movement of Bach's First Piano Concerto in D minor. And so my favorite thing about that movement is that despite the pianist and the orchestra so gently playing, the emotional effect is profound. It's very strong on the listener. And the reason it's so important to me is that when I was younger, I wasn't really like into classical music, but that piece, it completely drew me into classical music. And so I have a lot to thank for it.
Amazing. Ariel.
Well, one of the most important pieces of music to me in general, but I guess as a classical musician more so than anything else, was Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, and which I heard when I was probably 13 for the first time. Very famous recording by Ben Clyburn of the concerto. And, you know, I'd been playing piano for fairly long time, up until then, probably 7 years or so. But it was something that, you know, didn't mean very much to me. And I did it because it was just, you know, it was a skill that I you know had to continue working on, and my development had very much stalled by that point. I was starting to sort of lose momentum, and you know it was a difficult time for me too, you know, as middle school is for most people. And you know I heard this music for the first time, and you know I still didn't really understand classical music very well. I wasn't a very good listener, I guess you could say, but just, you know, the first movement sort of unlocked something in me that I didn't really quite get at first, but I knew was really meaningful. And so I started listening to this concerto every day, and then eventually all of Rachmaninoff's music. and then eventually all of Beethoven's music, and then, you know, Chopin and Schumann and Brahms and Prokofiev and so forth. And sort of I got roped into this universe of classical music through this piece. And I guess this piece was also very, very pivotal for Rachmaninoff himself, who wrote it 2 years after his, I think it was 2 years after his first symphony, which was a huge failure. It totally bombed, and he was absolutely miserable. He was depressed. He was seeing a psychotherapist, and he was trying to recover from the blow of, you know, of public sort of humiliation. And so eventually he came out of this state with this music, with this triumphant, sort of exultant, passionate tornado of a piece. And it changed his life, and I'd like to think that it changed mine too.
Amazing. Next question. In music, we often think that musicians are the ones who touch and inspire the audience. However, what is one instance when you yourself, the musician, got inspired while playing? Eunice.
I was actually going to choose one of the concerts at Juilliard Pre-College because they just give a feeling like no other. But I really enjoy rehearsals with the orchestra as well. And there was this one time, it was a dress rehearsal in Alice Tully Hall at night, late at night, and we were rehearsing Romeo and Juliet by Tchaikovsky with Maestro David Robertson. And we were all tired, and so we barely just tried to play, get through it. And after we finished, it was so good, and so nobody talked. And then Maestro Robertson was just like, wow. And we felt really proud of ourselves, and we just kind of got reminded how amazing music can be. And the concert was also really good the next day. So
Great. Sasha?
One very memorable moment in my life when I was playing the flute, right, is probably my 8th grade graduation. And so when I went on the stage, everybody was completely silent. And when I was playing, because this is not like a typically, typical classical listener, like this is not a group of classic people who are trained to listen to classical music. And so what really inspired me was how they like sat down and they attentively listened to me, and they were all just like with stars in their eyes looking at me. And so that really energized my playing, and it was very like a heartfelt and extremely emotional moment for me.
Beautiful. Ariel?
Well, I'd like to think that I get at least a little bit inspired every time I play, because otherwise I wouldn't really play very often. But well, I guess one performance, or rather recent performance, that was very, very good, and I enjoyed a lot, and I thought was very inspired, was I was graduating from Lucy Moses. I think the ceremony was in June. And, you know, I played in Merkin Hall. There were a few other graduates who performed. And it was a good performance, I think, because, you know, I had spent a lot of time sort of before in the year or so of quarantine that you know, we've experienced. You know, I changed the way I practiced a lot, because when you don't think about performing, you know, it changes the way you practice a lot. And you start focusing a lot on you know, details, on sort of feeling comfortable technically, and less so on on the fire of the moment when, you know, when you get on stage, when you perform. So, and to get to the point, so that this performance was it sort of came after a long period of this kind of practicing, and it felt like a very big shift, because I sort of went out and just played however I felt like playing in the moment, without, you know, a recorder presence, or you know, somebody, you know, telling me about mistakes and about how I should play better, but just that, you know, trying to enjoy the glory of the moment. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. And we have one more question for all three of you to answer. If you weren't playing your particular instrument, in your case, it is flute, harp, and the piano, what instrument would you be playing instead? Sasha.
The instrument I would probably play instead is professionally, right? Maybe piano, and that's just because of the versatile amount of like color which comes from the keys, and like the wide variety of noise. Like, the flute is a very nice instrument, has an extremely interesting sound, but it doesn't have the octave range of the piano, and the piano is like a mini orchestra, and so you can just put all of your feelings and like waves of emotion into the octave range and stuff like that.
Wonderful. Eunice.
I actually also play violin and piano even longer than I have.
Eunice. Mm-hmm.
But I think I would play the cello, just because I love the sound of it, and it's just a sound that the harp can't really make, no matter how warm you play and how much you press. And it's just this deep, rich sound that I really want to sort of experience as a performer.
Beautiful. Ariel.
Well, it's a tricky question that I think for me has two answers, just because if I were to play another instrument classically professionally, it would probably be the cello as well, because I just think it's a wonderful, very rich, really sort of really full sound. But the more honest answer, I think, would be acoustic guitar as a sort of singer-songwriter, or you know, rock guitarist or something, because that, I think that if I had sort of landed in a slightly different place or different time, I think that that's probably what I would be doing right now. And I do that as well, but not really at the level that I do piano. So.
Great. We'll dig into each one of your bios in a moment. I would like to try to play Ariel's Chopin Etude one more time, hoping we can have video this time. Can we try that? No. Something's wrong. Okay. Well, so let's see. Unfortunately, well, maybe we can try. Jude, can you please try on your own while we proceed? And I really would love to have the video played at some point during the broadcast. Thank you so much. Okay, we are back to Sasha Blackman. Would like to hear more of your story. So how did you choose flute? How did you begin as a flutist? Tell us more.
Well, I didn't particularly choose flute. My mother, she chose the instrument for me because there was two. So it started in second grade, and my mom, she wanted me to choose a musical instrument to play because, you know, it's good for your health, like your brain and memory, right? And so there was either the violin or the flute, and then she decided flute because the violin was it's a very difficult instrument to master, especially in the beginning. It's very hard, and so she chose flute for me, which is equally as hard, as I came to figure out. But I slowly but surely I fell in love with the instrument.
Of course. And what playing flute brings to your daily life? Tell us more about what it means to you.
Flute for me signifies discipline in my daily life, which I didn't have a lot of when I was younger. But to be a classical musician, you need to practice, practice, and practice. And flute, you can't be a flutist without practicing. And how it really greatly impacts me, because I'm not a naturally I don't put 100% forward of myself usually, but for flute I have to do that, so yeah.
Beautiful. Tell us about your Hall performance. Tell us a little bit about how did you feel playing at Carnegie Hall?
It was a magical moment. Backstage, everybody was going around, trying to set up the performances. And technically, I was supposed to go on 5th number, and they just asked me, do you want to go in now? And so I was like, sure, let's get this over with. And so when I went on the stage, it was like going into the cosmos, So I felt like I could see the entire world from up there.
Beautiful. And tell us a little bit about your Luzern participation in Luzern Music Festival in Switzerland and in Vienna Masterclass, Flute in Wien. Tell us more about your being in Europe and participating in those events.
Yeah, so the masterclasses in Lucerne are extremely helpful for flutists. Because you're surrounded by all of these world-class musicians, and they all and you like soak in their talent and what they're trying to achieve as musicians, and it really significantly affects what you want to be as a musician. Flute in Lyon was also an extremely interesting experience for me, as Uri Schneier, the person who I was working with, he introduced me to these new methods of teaching me flute, very different from my usual teacher Valerie Holmes. Like, he would make me push myself against the wall and like blow into the flute. And after the master classes with him, my playing significantly improved. I started to win these competitions, and it was amazing how much I improved under his guidance.
Amazing. And can we now have Sasha's slideshow of her photos? And as we go along, you can tell us, a little bit about each photograph. Go ahead, Sasha.
This was just when I was starting out playing the flute, and I think this was around 4th grade. And so as you can see, I have these elementary flute etude books in like the background, and my assignment notebook, which Valerie gives to all of her students. And this just reminds me of so when I was starting out, you can see in my face I'm a little bit frustrated with how I'm playing, but as I grew like more determined, and I wanted to play the flute well, the frustrated face disappeared, and I became a little bit more in love with my instrument.
Fantastic. Next picture. Oh, beautiful.
This is my mother and my grandmother, and they're significant figures in my musical career. So my mother, I don't even have like the words to describe how she is in my musical career, because not only does my teacher push me, she's the behind the scenes work. I mean, she really gives it her all to make me into the musician I am, and I really thank her for that. My grandmother also has a lot of a background in classical music, as she was trained in the Soviet Union. Although when she became a journalist and worked for TASS. But in the beginning, so beginning, right? Third grade, I started piano, and this was just helped me with like tuning, right? So like A, B, C, D,
Mhm.
like and she helped me a lot in my musical preparations.
Beautiful. Next.
This is my brother and my father, and so my brother is extremely important as he's so when he was my age, he also pursued a musical instrument. He played the trumpet, right? And so with under his guidance also, like he helped me with nervousness and stuff like that. So it was really he's also an important figure in my musical teaching.
Wonderful. Next.
So this is me now as opposed to 7 years ago with see here I am a little bit more calm in my face. I'm not very angry and frustrated with my instrument, and I've learned to make peace with it, you know, because flute is the only way I can share my musical message with the world. And so I don't have enough time to be frustrated with it.
Amazing. Great statement. Next.
This was at the Mariinsky Theater in St. Petersburg. And I wanted to touch on this in the thing. So here we watched 3 different ballets. The first one was Carmen. The second was this ballet by an American composer and choreographer. And the third was a classical piece, right? And so even then, when I was listening like to the pit orchestra, right? And I want to compare this to music in Turkey, right? Even then, I sense this sort of cold, mature playing in Russian musicians, as opposed to when you come to Turkey and you listen to like the music, like perhaps like the prayers from the mosque, which wrap around you, you know. It's very different because in Turkey you hear this music that's very warm and young, and in Russia you hear this music which is very mature, very classically trained, very harsh, very beautiful, but it's very cold, kind of like the atmosphere, yeah.
Next.
This is my mom and my mom's friend and me in Moscow. And here we also picked up a couple of classical performances, cellists actually. And we went to this palace in Moscow where this cellist performed this piece. And the way he played was indescribable to me. I mean, the way he played the cello, it was like he was making it cry, you know, it was beautiful. I mean, he had this velvety tone on the higher octaves, which is extremely hard for cellists. And I just thought, you know, if I could be a musician like that one day.
Beautiful. Oh.
This is also in Moscow. And here I think this was yeah, okay, so this was after another, so it's kind of interesting. We went to 2 cello performances in Moscow, and this was after the second one. It was a cello duet between cello and violin, a couple of duets, cello and violin, and he played the second Bach suite, the cellist. And the first movement of the second Bach suite is one of my favorite movements of all time in like classical discography, right? I absolutely adore Bach's music.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Oh, I love this picture.
Thank you. This was after my performance at the graduation. So we went out to eat, and I was planning on telling you either way, but yeah, it was an extremely memorable performance after the graduation.
Beautiful.
This was in Vienna when I was taking the master classes. That's my mom in the picture, and that's in our, you know, cuts. And again, you know, also I've noticed this, right? And so in Vienna, the way you hear the flute. So in Vienna, right, we went to these sonatas for violin under this church. It was like in the basement of the church. And there you can hear this extremely German, well, not even German, but how do I explain this? very classical sort of playing going on in the basement of the church, which is also different from like the Turkish sort of music which I'm hearing now.
Beautiful. And you are in Istanbul on vacation.
Yeah.
Right? Mm.
Oh, this is me and my best friend. She's the number one influence in my life. She constantly helps me pursue my music. She also plays an instrument. She plays the guitar. I mean, it's a little bit different from classical music, but we both bounce ideas off of each other, which help us become better musicians.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. This was at my end of the year in Princeton, and last year, this 2020 to 21 school year, I was in Princeton, and this was during quarantine. And during quarantine, I really had to hone in on my practice and my discipline as a musician. And I feel that in this year, I significantly improved, being by myself all of the time and having nothing to do but practice. So I'm just gonna explain this. This is me reading, right? And I'm an avid reader. I love to read. And I feel that, so my favorite book, right? It's Sputnik Sweetheart by Haruki Murakami. And I feel in any book, you can like take the prose being written and insert that into your music. So like Ariel said before, music is words. And so the words you read in the book, they can be transported into musical sentences, which can carry the audience away.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much, Sasha. Anything else you'd like to add before we play your second video, which is Handel Sonata in C? Not at this time? Okay, great. You'll have another chance to speak to the audience. Please, let's play Handel Sonata in C major, Opus 1, number 7. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sasha. We're moving on to Eunice Park. Eunice, welcome again. Tell us your story. How did you choose harp?
I actually started piano before, and so when I moved, I had to look for a new piano teacher. And after looking, we found one who also happened to play the harp. And after taking just piano lessons, I asked her if I was too young to play the harp. And at the time, I was 8. And she said no. And she asked me if I wanted to give it a try. And so I played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with 2 fingers. And then I started.
Okay, wonderful. And I know also from the pictures that your brother also plays harp.
Yes.
So do you mentor him in the practice at home or no?
Definitely. I help him, sometimes the teacher assigns a piece to learn at home, and I help him with that and just technique wise, like his finger placement.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely sometimes get frustrated with him, but I remember that I was once at that stage. So, but it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. And before you joined the live broadcast, you were sharing with me that you live in Virginia, the state of Virginia, and you come to Juilliard pre-college every Saturday, which is a 4-hour trip to and 4-hour trip back. And you do that every single Saturday when the school is in session. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
It's very exhausting, but it's so worth it. And it's an amazing experience each time. Unfortunately, last year it was all online, which definitely impacted our family's like dynamic. But it was nice to not wake up at 3 a.m. every morning. But I'm definitely excited to go back this year. So yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So how playing harp daily changes you as a person? What does it bring to your life?
I think it really reminds me how grateful I should be. And I know that, playing any instrument is an immense privilege, and it's not something that everyone can do. And especially the harp, I definitely do not take for granted. And it just reminds me how grateful I should be in life. And yeah.
Beautiful. So your recent big wins, tell us about it, the competition, the process of preparation, and the importance that, what did you carry out of that experience of preparation, participation, and winning? What do you think you has gained the most?
Since this year was at Juilliard was online, all my lessons with my teacher were through Zoom or FaceTime. And so I was very worried about how I would do in the competition. But the process was long. And each time I feel like there was something to do better or fix, which was a very humbling experience. And it was unfortunately online, but you had to play live. But it was different because I was playing in my room, yet it was a competition. And so I definitely had to be in the mindset and just control myself and tell myself that this wasn't just practice, it was actually a competition. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And so now we're going to have a slideshow of Eunice's pictures. And as we go through, tell us a little bit about each photograph.
This was when I was in the Bay Youth Symphony Orchestra when I was 11, 12. And this is Maestro Joanne Folletta, and she's actually in the Buffalo Philharmonic now in New York. But she was our guest conductor. And after the concert, she wished me a good, big congratulations, and we took a picture together. And that was a very memorable and big memory for me.
Beautiful. Next.
This is actually the Juilliard School building in rehearsal. And I was rehearsing Sagan, And I remember being very nervous because the harp cadenza is so big, and it's just a very prominent piece in the harp world. And I remember being really nervous, and I think I actually cried afterwards because I was so nervous. But yeah.
Beautiful. Next.
This is in Korea. In the Well, I was playing at a concert, and it was actually in a big like mall, in one of those big spaces. And I remember my grandparents came to this, and a bunch of my family did, and so it was just an amazing experience because my family could finally see me perform in person.
Beautiful. Next.
This is my teacher, and this is the first time that I met her while I was doing a tour of the Juilliard School building when I was 11. And I remember her being super busy, and I was very nervous, but she was so sweet, and I learned so much in that short amount of time. So
Beautiful.
this is my brother, and we were playing a duet together, which we do often now that he's at a certain level where he can play with me. And it's a lot of fun, and to play with someone else, especially, at your own home. So yeah.
Does he also attend Juilliard Pre-College?
No, not yet, I guess. So he's 9, so not, a little young, but.
That's great. It's great that you help mentor him into, practicing and studying properly. Great. Next.
Oh, this is during my lesson, and she's just telling me which things are wrong and which to do better. But yeah, I think it was before a concert because I'm wearing all black. So it was probably before the concert.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this was also before a concert, and I had to add like a whole new part to my already difficult harp part. And so right now we're like sitting down and taping pieces together to my to the pages. And so yeah, I think 10 minutes before I had to go. So
That's a great picture.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This was recent, I guess. It was last year, and my friend's dad is a professional photographer who actually works in New York, but and so he did these pictures for me.
Next.
And this one as well.
Next. Mm-hmm.
Oh, this was for a recording I had to make for the Eclipse Chamber Orchestra competition. And so I was getting ready to record, and my mom was testing out the angles. And so, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, this was for Halloween. And Halloween, I think last year fell on a Saturday. And so it was before my lesson. And so my brother got dressed up as Mozart, and I got dressed up and to surprise my teacher. So yeah, it was fun.
So what time do you normally have to leave your house to be at Juilliard? Because it's a 4-hour trip.
I have to leave the house by 3 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because my first class is at 9. But I also have to get ready and eat breakfast. And so, yeah, I get.
Oh my goodness. Unbelievable. Next.
Oh, this was very recent. It was about a month ago, and it was my winner's recital for the my first prize of the American Harp Society competition. And this is my brother and my cousin at my church, and just giving me flowers after it was done. So
Beautiful.
oh, this was the first day of Juilliard Pre-College, and I remember being super excited, and I'm posing in front of the New York Philharmonic poster.
Yeah.
Oh, this is in DC. It's a place called Georgetown, and It has the Georgetown University, and it's just like old streets with lots of shops, and it's just a pretty place. So yeah, I was there.
Great. Beautiful. Well, so we are going to next. Well, actually, before we play video number 2, I wrote down a couple of other topics to discuss. In your bio, you mentioned Heart Foundation and the Student Equity Ambassador Leaders Program. Can you tell us about your involvement in both?
Yeah, so I'm part of a group called Show Me Your Heart Foundation. And it's actually a foundation that one of the students' parents formed at Juilliard Pre-College. And we do benefit concerts at hospitals or retirement homes, and we do projects, stuff like that. And so, yeah.
Beautiful.
And the Student Equity Ambassadors Leaders is a program at my school district. It's for Fairfax County. And we do service projects, and it's actually a tutoring program. So I tutor middle schoolers and elementary, and one of the subjects that I teach is music. And so, yeah.
Beautiful. That is really great and inspirational. And now we are going to play Eunice's video number 2, which is Bach Sarabande from Violin Partita number 1. Take a listen. Well, apparently we're having some issues with video today. We certainly gonna attempt to try it again before we pull our hair out. But for now, let's move on to Ariel and Ariel's story. Your first steps as piano student, and tell us your journey, please.
Well, I'm not sure there's much to tell, to be honest. Piano was not my decision originally. It was my parents' decision, and you know, I played on a nice little brown Yamaha upright that we got for like $100 for a while, until I was about 12 or so. And then, I studied with my teacher, Professor Nuzova, for all that time. And I, at 12, through her efforts largely, my parents decided to find a baby grand for me. And then, a year later, I started really taking music very seriously. And, it was a very sort of slow rolling snowball, I guess. But music was part of my life for a while before it sort of became part of my soul, so to speak. I don't know if there's a better way to put it.
So next, so how you feel about playing the piano for so many years, and how did this impact your life? I know you've spoken a little bit about that already, but maybe one more time, spell it out for us.
Well, piano is sort of at least it was for a very long time, a center, like an emotional center for me, because, as somebody who's more introverted than not, I think piano was always a sort of a place, like my own sort of little playground, to explore, my own passions, my own thoughts, outside of the world of, of school and of other people. And I guess it sort of helped me a lot, to understand myself, not just, musically or whatever, but also as like a worker, like as somebody who's trying to achieve something, sort of about my work habits, what motivates me, what I want from work that I do, and stuff like that. So it certainly sort of gave me not so much work ethic, but at least like a work brain, more so than schoolwork did, unfortunately.
Great. We're going to attempt and play, maybe third one is a charm, your Chopin Etude Opus 10 #1, and hoping it'll be a video this time. Let's try. Fingers crossed. Yes. Most of Great. I'm so glad that it worked. If I seem a little distracted throughout this broadcast, it's because we've been texting all throughout with the tech person to figure out how to make it work. So I apologize for any setbacks that you might have witnessed. Moving on with Ariel's stories, share your memories and your feedback from your recent wins, your competitions, preparation, the process, how did it impact you? How did it make you feel at the end? What's the most important thing about it?
Well, I guess for competitions, I personally I preferred not to spend that much time on competitions. At least, recently I try to, do more just work independently. But in terms of competitions, I have, of course, done my fair share. And I feel like the most important thing is to just make sure that you're walking in as confident in your own sort of abilities as you can be, and that you work very hard, but that you don't sort of leave too much, not leave too much, but put too much weight in how you perform, like how you do in the competition, but rather how you actually play, how much of your potential or your thoughts about the music did you manifest.
Excellent. Let's go to your picture slideshow, and we'll do the same that we did with Sasha and Eunice, where you tell us about each photograph a little bit. Aw.
So this is me and my teacher, me when I'm not sure how old, but yeah, I've been studying with Miss Nuzo for ages, and this is probably close to the beginning, so I'm probably 6 or 7 years old here. And she's showing me the ropes.
Great.
This is me and my brother, up to no good.
Clearly.
This is me, I think in 7th grade. My Halloween costume was Wolverine.
Awesome pictures. Mm-hmm. Mm.
I think this is 9th grade or so, and I think it was after a pretty long school day in the fall, and those headphones were a birthday present, and I was listening to classical music in them all the time, and I love the park, so this was me in the park.
Beautiful.
This is me and my brother. I think about a year ago, in the fall, yeah. And I was helping him practice some piece that he was working on. This is from around the same time. I'm playing a Bach Prelude and Fugue. This was like a professional photo. I mean, not really professional. My dad is an amateur photographer, but he's very good. So I think it's safe to say it's professional. Mm-hmm. And it was for competitions and everything, I think 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe. This is me in Spain. I don't know what else to say about that.
Chilling, I guess, would be the word. Right. Next.
Yeah, this is me joking around with my dad at a at a Spanish castle that was restored. Yeah, in 45-degree heat, I believe. Celsius, I'm sorry. I'm a little weird that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is me with my other instrument. I think a couple of years ago.
Beautiful.
So,
Great shot.
this is me here in Connecticut a few months ago. I like to play the guitar outside by myself a lot. Obviously, I'm not actually by myself here, but we'll ignore that. This is me with my mom and my brother in Spain. And this is after the Lucy Moses graduation in June that I mentioned with Miss Nuzo. Very, very sweet moment.
Yes.
This is me and my dad on vacation in the Caribbean, and we rented a little boat to go watch the sunset on the ocean, and yeah.
Beautiful. Great choice of pictures. Really gives a good portrait about who you are. So now you're going to college, Northwestern University, that starts in a couple of weeks. What are your expectations? What are you hoping this experience will bring you?
Well, let me list the ways. I mean, I really look forward to finding a new sort of community of people, sort of new interests and new horizons to explore in terms of things that aren't piano necessarily. And I am just really looking forward to having a new sandbox to play in for 4 years.
Yeah. And the last question before we play your second video, not a question, but from your bio, I took that you write fiction. You already told us you play guitar, you do rock climbing and collecting records. Tell us a little bit about each one of your interests.
Well, writing is something that, I sort of do on and off. And I feel honestly as if, when I write, I sort of express myself more than I do when I play music, because I feel when I play piano, I try to, I'm communicating, I feel, somebody else's thoughts, somebody else's feelings, and I'm sort of letting them flow through me. And when I write, it's much more personal to me. And I've struggled with it because it's not something that maybe it's a little arrogant to say it, but I think it's true that I am more sort of special in terms of my musical sort of talents than I am in terms of my writing talents, because writing is something that's shared between, almost, everybody on the planet can write something. And, there aren't a lot of people on the planet that can play Chopin etudes, unfortunately. But it's nonetheless, it's something that's really important to me as a person and as an artist.
And your guitar
My
playing?
guitar, because I love rock, and I love metal and jazz, and I'm generally just a really big musicophile, and there's a lot of music that just isn't written for piano and is written for guitar. And so yeah, it was something that I picked up around the start of quarantine, and I really, really enjoy.
Great. And collecting records.
Yeah, that's kind of a strange one, but I was first exposed to that from a friend that I had, a really talented cellist who studied at the Juilliard pre-college at one point. Yeah, and he lived in the village and he would collect records all the time. And I sort of started going to record stores downtown because of the records that he had at his place, and I sort of really got drawn into the feeling of being in touch with sort of like music in a more historical sense, because it's much more physical and much more real, tangible. When you have a record that's from the 60s or the 70s or whenever, it feels like you're experiencing the music in a much more like raw form, even though a lot of that is just in your head, but music is in your head. So I guess that's just something I like.
Great. So we're now going to play Ariel's second video, which is Chopin Nocturne, Opus 55, number 2 in E flat major. Let's try. Yeah, we could only play an excerpt. Apologies again for technical issues that we have had. We also going to play Eunice's second video that did not work also. So let's try that again. Thanks for your patience. I'm glad it all worked out at the end. Before we go, I'd like for you guys to send, thoughtful wishes to your audience. Let's start with Sasha. Say a couple of words.
Thank you for listening to me. And I kind of wanted to talk about this. I love classical music, and I think everybody should love classical music, but I feel that it's not very accessible right now in the terms of like how popular, like pop music, rap music is more pushed towards mainstream, right? And so I feel that we, like classical musicians, we definitely have to work to make our music more accessible, to lower economical audiences and so on.
Most definitely. Very well said. Thank you. Eunice, what would you like to say as a last few words to your audience?
I also wanted to thank you for tuning in and watching all of our performances. And I agree with what Sasha said, how it's not accessible for economical reasons, but also right now for COVID, concerts are very limited, and just that whole experience of live music is limited in general. And so I hope that the pandemic will hopefully soon go away, and classical musicians and music will have a comeback and return for everyone. So
Most definitely. Ariel.
Thank you for hearing us. And I think music is great, and I think everybody should try and love music to the fullest extent that they can. And the world of music is vast and full of all kinds of different beautiful things. So.
Great. Thank you so much, all three of you, for joining us today. It's a true honor. We wish you, great success in all your future endeavors. And we wanted to thank our audience and everyone, all our supporters who are watching today. Thanks so much, and have a great weekend. Take care.